The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pac wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
All right, Wolfpack fans, welcome to a brand new episode of the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. It's been a little while since we've done a podcast, but through the Skype machine, we have head coach Pat Popolizo on today. Pat, are you there?
I'm here, Brian. Good to hear from you. Haven't seen you in a while, but it's always great to hear your voice.
Pat, this is great technology. Now, this is the 66th episode of the podcast. You've been about on half of them. This is the first one we've done over Skype. This is just cool.
Yeah, this is a little different for me. I'm catching up to the technology guru of life we're in right now. So I'm evolving as a person when it comes to technology. That's for sure.
Now, we had you on Zoom last time we did the podcast, and I just kept getting madder and madder about your quality of internet over there. So we thought we'd go Skype machine today, and you sound crystal clear.
Yeah, it's like you said, you got the voice of a radio.
I do. I got my fake radio voice going today, but excited. It's been about a month since we talked. What has your new normal been this last few weeks?
Well, I feel like we've burned through the phones quite a bit. So that's a lot of the days, Zoom calls, phone calls. The luxury we're in with recruiting, we can still continue to communicate through phone calls and Zoom calls. So that and checking in on the guys, it burns through a lot of time. Stuff that you used to do in 10 minutes in a practice in front of guys now takes a lot more time. Calling them individually or getting them, you got to schedule some things because you used to have just a certain set time where you'd see everybody and you get the things you need done in person. But now we got to do it all through the phone call. So making it happen though.
Okay. What's the beard game like? I haven't seen a picture of you for a while.
Well, I'm auditioning for a touch of gray. I don't know if you've ever seen those commercials, but it's coming in real strong. And then the people say it's called wisdom, the white in there. So I'm just going to go with that line. But I'm going to start auditioning for those commercials here pretty soon.
Okay. What about workout routine? Your east wing of your mansion up there, have you got it completed? You got the full setup? What's going on? Everybody wants to know stair stepper situation.
Priorities in life are always set. So that was one of the first things we did is make sure we had a fitness center in line. So yes, there is a stair stepper here. I have not missed a workout since we've, been on lockdown, I guess. And I hope you've been doing the same because I expect to see you bulked up when I see you next time. You've had basically now 5 weeks to get in shape for what I was looking for. So, we got a stepper, got the free weights, and basically business as usual as far as training goes. A lot like what the guys got to do. You just got to adjust, evolve, and make sure we're on top of things when it comes to training.
I was going to say, have you sensed any frustration with the guys workout-wise? I mean, I know they're doing a little bit of running and what they can at home, but definitely a different situation. Any frustration that their off-season really isn't going how it normally goes at this point?
I think when you're motivated to do certain things and you're working extremely hard, I think you're going to encounter those. And I can sense some guys are going through it. They're just eager to get back on the mat and train together. But I think the biggest thing, and we talk about it when we get on our calls, is everybody's going through the same thing. So no one's at a major advantage. Obviously, some guys are going to be a little bit at a disadvantage because they don't have maybe a mat where they're at, or they don't have certain weights that they're used to having. But I know the guys who are trying to evolve and get better are finding unique ways to continue to work out. And those, you're going to see those guys wrestling. Obviously, when we get back in the swing of things, they're going to be the guys that are probably producing at a high level next year for us. Those the guys that are unwilling to accept just no for an answer when it comes to finding a way to work out. At the end of the day, you can get a good workout in if you're just running and cross-training pretty hard. So staying on top of that.
I did see USA Wrestling sent out a thing this week. Late May, they've already canceled the U23 and the Junior World Team Trials. And you guys have always gone up to Ohio to get some folk-style action. I know they can't train on campus or anything, but even canceling of those events, how is that going to affect your summer where the guys can't really get that kind of cross-training in different styles?
Yeah, we're going to have to adjust and adapt. And I think that's what makes good programs and people and athletes is you stay with it and you trust what you're doing is going to work. And if you're putting energy into getting better, there's so many aspects in our sport that you can get better at. So yeah, we're going to get away from competition mode. I think that's the hardest thing for guys, especially in a sport like wrestling. Guys are always training for a tournament. They're training for a competition. And the hard part now is there's no straight line or direction that guys are going in. So I think this is probably one of the best times ever to get better technically and mentally because there's no set date of competition. So guys don't have to focus in on I got to get my weight, my conditioning. I got to be ready for this. I got to be ready for that. They can just worry about themselves. And that's been our message here. Let's just worry about who we are as individual and what we got to get better at. And guys are starting to attack that and address that.
Has there been a message about weight management for the guys?
Well, let's just say some guys' faces look a little rounder than others. So, but that's also because their season did just end, and it typically happens. Some guys seem to put on a little bit of extra weight from, we'll call it Sam Craven's strength training program.
But I will say too, I've done Zooms. Sometimes they're just bad camera angles. Benefit of the doubt.
In their defense, yeah, give them benefit of the doubt. But soon enough, we'll hopefully all be back training, and we have a nice little schedule lined up. Once we get back, the guys won't have to worry about any of that. It'll take care of itself just from the amount of time that we'll all be spending together. So I'm not too worried about that. But I definitely don't recognize some guys. Maybe it's because they got haircuts or they haven't been able to get any haircuts. They're either straight buzzing or they have super long hair. So there's no in between anymore.
We need a good photo shoot as soon as they step back on campus here.
Yep.
Speaking of stepping back on campus, I know summer school classes are now going to be online. Do you guys kind of know how your summer is going to be set up? And I guess I also want to ask, you usually have your freshman class coming in early. Is that going to be a possibility at all?
I think it's week to week on when all that it'll go in the direction of what we're told from campus. But yeah, some guys are going to take online classes, get some credits ahead, just to help them with their degree as far as timing goes. But for the most part, guys are, they have the option to take summer school if they want. So we're just in limbo when it comes to timing. And if we can, and we get the green light to get back to campus, I know you got to give guys plenty of notice. And I think it sounds like every 2 weeks we get an update on when we're allowed to do that. So hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, it's not going to be our typical summer. I don't think we have a set date for freshmen to come back, being online. Once they get the okay to get here, we got to get everything organized. And again, I think everybody's just got to be patient and work together and handle the adversity as a team.
It's finals week right now. You actually just had a call with the guys. How are online finals going? It's very early, but I'm sure it's a lot different than being here in person.
Yeah, and that's one thing I love about this team is their discipline and how motivated they are to succeed academically. And they've been doing a phenomenal job. Well, we talked about that this morning. A lot of times you get your weekly updates, and there's some guys, you gotta send some messages to about making sure they're on top of some schoolwork. But it's nice to see when we get our updates, they're all extremely positive. Guys are knocking it out of the park academically right now. And I would say the majority of them are going to probably hit that 3.0 benchmark that we've been pushing hard for. So I'm sure you'll get into some academic stuff here down the road. So I don't want to jump and steal your thunder.
Nah, I tell you what, great lead in. We didn't even practice this. I mean, this is like one take.
Yeah.
We're going to talk.
You would think I'm reading right off your paper.
I can tell you're moving around and eating, so it's kind of making me stressed here that you're not just sitting down and focusing on this interview.
I can't sit down. You can't. I'm walking and talking to you. I can't just sit down in one spot.
Okay.
So I'm not a deaf guy.
Well, when you're walking around talking on the phone, does that count as your steps for the day? I mean, that's kind of cheating.
Yeah. You gotta keep your calories burning.
Okay.
So. I used to walk around WB. You do laps from the office to the wrestling room, and every now and then I have to chase you down. So I get a lot more steps in. So now I got to make sure I maintain those.
When was the last time you were up in the wrestling room?
I've stopped by there a couple times to get some things out of the office for some stuff we had to send out and some little things like that. But for the most part, it's been a while. I would say at least once a week, I try to go up there and get anything that we need for supplies, but there's really nothing going on in there. I miss, that's the one thing I will say, I do miss being in that room with the guys. It's definitely the hardest part.
Obviously, your guys, what about RTC guys? Have you touched base? How are some of those guys handling their current situation as well?
Yeah, that's, same situation these guys are in with the college guys. You went from the trials being here, then the Olympics, obviously down the road, guys were training for, and then you get that pulled out from underneath you, and it's one of those, you got to kind of just have to mentally push through it. They're doing a great job. They know that they need to do certain workouts to stay ahead, and they've been getting together doing that. Nick's got a little small mat that he's using in his garage. He got some weights over there. I think he just got sponsored by some weight company. So those guys are doing a good job getting together and training with each other. There's obviously been no direction with coaching other than maybe over some FaceTime stuff and things like that to help with. But it's the luxury with those guys is they've been through the sport their whole lives, so they know, and they've been coached at a high level, so they kind of have to take ownership at this point, and they've been doing that, and it's paying off for them because they've been on the cutting edge with some training, and if guys are a little banged up, this is a time where they can heal their bodies. I know we've had a couple guys that were training through some minor injuries, and now we expect everybody coming back to be 100%. So there is some positive to all this.
Any backyard wrestling at the Popolizio compound yet? You got that mat outside?
Eventually, we're gonna get that going. I look forward to that day because I got a little bit of a hill, so we'll see what kind of skill set some of these guys have being able to wrestle with the mat outside. But it is. I mean, we've actually talked about doing that at some point. RTC guys at least getting a mat outside if they're ever allowed to get together as a group and work out. That would be obviously Raleigh's weather and where we're at would be a beautiful place to do that at.
Cool. Might have to get a social media team out there. That'd be some cool social content.
Yeah. I don't know if our sports info guy can make it out there, but we can maybe check in on them.
I tell you what, if you give me the code to that gate, I could definitely do something. Speaking of which, I tell you what, social media, all the coaches, Donnie Vincent, he's got to be the all-star right now. Ever since he went public with his Twitter account, he's been killing it. But everybody's been talking about Wolfpack Cribs, viral sensation. You dodged my question. When are we getting a Popolizio Wolfpack Cribs tour?
Well, we haven't officially opened the gates yet, so we just got to be patient, Brian.
All right.
In the meantime, don't be afraid to turn that camera around and start recording too.
I'm a great behind-the-scenes guy, I tell you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm great behind. What do you the voice of the radio? We got good voices. Maybe we're not best in front of the camera.
We don't get paid for the faces, just the voices.
Yeah.
Academics going back, very big. ACC announced all their awards. Hayden Hidley, the 2020 ACC Scholar Athlete of the Year, third Wolfpack member to get that award. How big of an accomplishment is that for Hayden here in his redshirt junior season?
I think it's a huge accomplishment. It goes alongside anything we do in the wrestling aspect of things. when we recruit these guys, we recruit them to a high standard. And I mean, Hayden is a perfect example of a kid that has bought into everything and has been extremely motivated to be elite in the top percentile of anything that we're doing. And that's shown, shows athletically, it's showing academically, it's showing in his leadership skills. And part of that, is he's being pushed. And I think that's what makes good teams is there's competition from within. Guys academically want to be at the highest team GPA and they're pushing him and he's pushing those guys. So it's been a team effort for all these guys to help each other. And I've seen what it's done to our team this past year as an overall program is these guys coming together and not accepting being average. They want to be elite, and it's paying off big time on and off the mat for them.
I was going to say there were a couple 4.0 GPA students who might have disagreed with the Scholar Athlete of the Year. So there's some competition for this award now.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that it's a mixture of both GPA and on the mat accomplishment. So when you take Hayden's results and you take his GPA, it's going to be hard to beat that. And there's guys really doing a great job academically, and to get a 4.0 in college and wrestle the schedule that we've done, it's not an easy thing to do. So I think it sets these guys up when they get in the real world. They're going to make sure they're at the elite level, whatever it is that they're doing.
One other big academic news. It hasn't been released yet, so we might get in trouble for actually talking about it today. But since you're kind of the head of this organization, I figured it was okay to bring it up. But the NWCA Division I top 30 Scholar All-American teams, they name the top 30 teams academically every year. NC State, number 16 this year, 3.25 GPA. How big of an accomplishment for the entire team to get this academic award?
This is, as we check the boxes of goals that we've had as a team and as a coach and as a coaching staff and as an organization, this has been one, and it's been 8 years in the works to do, but it's something we have not been able to do. So put it in perspective, we've accomplished a lot on the mat, and we've done great academically here, and we've maintained that 3.0 GPA for the last several years. But to actually be in the top 20 for the first time ever, I mean, that shows you how difficult it is to do and how motivated this team was academically and athletically. So this is one that I've really enjoyed seeing play out, and I know it hasn't been announced yet, and hopefully when all this comes out, it will be. But yeah, this is a huge accomplishment for our team because we've set that goal in the beginning of the year that we wanted to be a top 20 all academic team, and they finally hit that. And there's some elite programs out there academically. And when it comes out, everybody can compare, the results on and off the mat as far as academics and athletics. And I think we got a great combination right now. And that's the one thing that hasn't gone backwards. Sometimes, your athletic results drop, but your GPA goes up. Well, this isn't the case here. I think both our athletic results have gone up and then the team GPA has gone up, that just speaks volumes to the work ethic of this team.
And I think we have to give a special shout out. New school record, 6 NWCA Academics All-Americans this year as well. Jacob Camacho, Jarrett Trombley, AJ Lighton, Hayden Hidley, Daniel Bullard, and Trent Hidley. So that's the most you can get. This is also a first for NC State. 6 academic All-Americans. You have to be proud of that, Mark.
Extremely proud. When we recruited these guys, that was what we talked about in the process. You're coming here to get your degree. A lot of these guys are graduating in 4 years and working on their master's year 5, which I think Hayden and Bullard are doing. Thomas, I believe. And that's from day one, that's what we're looking for. These guys to come in here and not drop their standard, because sometimes you get into college and you realize how difficult it is academically and athletically to maintain excellence. And that's what I love about this group is they're just resilient. They're tough mentally and physically. and they're driven, and they're going to be extremely successful post-college, whether they continue to stay in the sport and wrestle and coach, or they want to get out in the real world and whatever career path they take, they're going to climb the ladder pretty fast because they have that work ethic, and they also have, the skill set behind that to produce at a very high level.
Like I said, the NWCA academic honors, they're not out yet. So if we get in trouble, I hope the president of this organization, I hope he can pardon us. But it's important to get these stats out there. I thought they were very impressive this year.
Yeah, these numbers aren't easy to accomplish. One, like we talked about, to accomplish what they did as far as results went on the mat is one thing, and to back it up academically, I'll rival that with anybody in the country anytime. And that it's a very motivating group to be around. I think they bring out the best in each other, and that's what makes a great culture. And that's one thing we have here right now at NC State is this culture that's producing excellence right now. And we got to just make sure we maintain that. And in these times when we're away from each other, there's a lot of communication so we can stay on top of all this.
And we talked about bringing everybody back. Another stat that came out, NC State Wrestling finished in the top 15 nationally in average attendance this year. New school record over 4,300 for one duel. New school record over 2,100 for the average attendance. You guys like to build. You like to have the crowd there. It gets the guys into it. What's the next step for NC State Wrestling in regards to home attendance here?
We got to continue to build. I think this is a huge part of what our program's been able to accomplish. You can't just be excellent in one area, and that's something we focus on as a staff. You've got to be elite in all these categories. They've got to push up with each other. When you focus just on one area, sometimes something else will give, and it's like if you're focused too much on just the results on the mat, sometimes the academics can slip, or maybe it's the other way, you're pushing so hard on the academic side of things, you slip over here. But that's not the case with this group and our staff, as we make sure we balance everything off. Attendance is one of them. You look at the whole total package between attendance, the recruiting, that plays a major role into long-term success within a program. And I recall when you were here from day one, you could roll into Reynolds and it was pretty quiet in there and not much happening. With our fan base, with just the atmosphere, and that's something over time we've created this really unique atmosphere in Reynolds. And when you're talking to elite level recruits, they want to know that they can wrestle in front of a huge crowd and put on a show, and that's a big selling point right now. This is obviously one of the best places in the country to live, and now that we've created this atmosphere in Reynolds, it's going to help in our recruiting long term.
Absolutely. Remember rolling into Reynolds that first season, going down into the corner, dropping that black drape. It was definitely different. Reynolds renovation has definitely helped, and Reynolds is just a great environment. And I think, there's no kidding. The teams that you bring in, they affect attendance a lot of times. How has the schedule building been for you? I'm sure, has there been any talk about more regionalized Asian, or I know it's kind of in flux right now, but how has working on that schedule been?
It's been a little challenging because you really don't know, the unknown of where we're at. And it's not just us as NC State, teams that you're communicating with are in the same boat. So they don't really kind of know what their travel schedule could look like. Budgets obviously are going to be a part of that too. The good news is we are in a great conference now with some really good teams. So we know we'll always bring in elite teams to compete against. There's been some talks possibly doing a home and away with some close local teams if we have to keep making sure we maintain good attendance. So healthy, hard, tough competition's good. And we want to obviously bring in the best teams we can. And trust me, it's not a lack of trying to get really good teams to compete against us. So just sometimes it's the nature of the beast, and we got to find our competition within our conference and then go into some of these tournaments, and hopefully some of these schools that are, have good history and tradition are willing to get on the schedule. And it's a tough challenge sometimes. And, you know, I think once we can create dual meets being a little more impactful, we can probably lock in some better teams. But right now, you know, everybody's just focused in on the end of the year tournament. So we've got to continue to evolve as a sport. You know, me and you are both fans of dual meets, Brian.
Oh, I love a good duel.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
But Pat, is great catching up. I tell you what, the Skype machine blew away my expectations. Instead of driving all over town to try to find you, I might just try to hit you up on Skype a little more often now.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this because now I don't know if I'm going to ever see you if I can't lock you down for a podcast every now and then. It's concerning then to know that you won't even travel on the. Well, here's the good news: is we're going to be busing a lot next year, so I can't wait to spend those 8 hours in that bus with you if we have to do that together.
I don't mind a bus ride. I do mind Donnie Vincent's DVD collections. So that's about. We're going to have to figure something out.
Start stocking up on some good movies.
Pat, always great to hear from you. I'm going to continue you giving us some updates on the team, and just hope everybody's staying safe and just getting through this different time that we're all going through right now.
And appreciate it, Brian.
The Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to MattTalkOnline.com.